So Brian, along these turbulent times, the UFC had their event on ESPN 9 on Saturday. And I know this pains you because I know it's one of your favorite guys. I know he's one of your favorite guys. And I tuned in to the post-fight recap that you did. And I could just feel that frustration.
Yeah.
Tyron Woodley, drops his second fight in a row.
Yeah.
Now I heard what you said, but for the people that haven't seen your recap video, from your perspective, what did you see?
I saw same old Ty when he gets down. And I think I made this reference or this comparison during my recap. It reminds me so much of Zab Judah. Zab Judah
You had a name for it.
It's a front runner.
Front runner.
When you are ahead and things are going well, you see the best of this person. You see all of their combinations, their techniques, and all these different things. You see everything working. But as soon as things start going bad, all of the wheels come off and they revert to whatever their bad habit is. For Zab Judah, it was losing poise and losing all, discipline, just in every way, shape, or form. This is what would happen to him. It happened to him against Costa Zoo. It happened to him most notably against Floyd Mayweather. Against Floyd Mayweather, he was beating Floyd for the first 4 rounds.
Right.
Floyd made an adjustment, and then there was the riot thing inside the ring, and then everything just went south for Zab. Floyd made the adjustment, said, "Oh, I got you," and Zab panicked. And what Tyron does is Tyron goes into this passive timidity sort of a approach. He's already not the most active guy, but when he faces adversity, he dials it back even further. And then he gets into a survival mode because Ty is so skilled, so athletic. He can pretty much survive against anybody. Because if you think about it, he was dropped in the early moments of the first round and was mounted by one of the best Brazilian jiu-jitsu practitioners in the sport. And he survived it.
Right.
Very few people would have been able to get off the ground after being compromised with a punch by Gilbert Burns and not tapped out. So this is proof of what he's capable of doing. But it's almost it's a little bit of Adrian Broner too, because Broner is tough and athletic and he can take a shot. But the Maidana fight changed him. It did something to him and it made him really gun shy. And I have a theory personally that he is definitely afraid of the humiliation connected to being knocked out. And because he's definitely, and I don't think he's afraid of the punches or getting hit.
Right.
I think he's afraid of the humiliation of getting knocked out. When, all of the images of him getting walked backstage, being held up, looking pitiful after the Maidana fight. Right. He never wants to feel that way again. So he doesn't engage. And Tyron feels
it's like that wide receiver going across the middle. Once you get laid out,
you get alligator arms. And I feel like Tyron falls into that. And that's exactly what happened against Gilbert Burns. Burns was bigger and stronger than he expected, got hurt early. He said, "Oh my God, this guy can hurt me." And from that point on, it's his heel scraping the cage because he's skirting the cage the whole fight. And it's frustrating, I know, to be a Tyron Woodley fan. It is,
But I want to ask you something because, like I said, the recap was great. It was right. It was in the moment. You were fresh off after watching the fight. So it was all very right there in your mind. But something you and I talked about on Friday's show, and I had asked you because, you talked about the perspective you had of Woodley jumping on the scales first. Kind of, you took it as a guy ready to go. I took it as a guy that maybe was having trouble with weight and needed to get it over with. And I'm wondering, was there a low energy level that you noticed?
He said that it wasn't. He said he was in great shape because he did his own video afterwards. He said, "You got to be willing to talk when you win. You got to be willing to talk when you lose."
Right.
He said, "I felt great." He said, "The weight cut went great." He said, I felt good." He said, "I have zero excuses. I was ready. I wasn't injured. I wasn't hurt. I got beat." This is flat out what he said. So
what's next for him?
what I believe and what I said, like what I believe and what I said is, and I'm gonna read you what
Okay.
I wrote, my lead sentence
Okay.
for my breakdown on Forbes.
Okay.
My lead sentence is Gilbert Burns looks like a legitimate title contender, and Tyron Woodley has to strongly consider retirement.
Mm.
And the reason why I said that is because Tyron Woodley's 38 years old, and the wave of welterweights is going in a direction that it is really a youth movement happening right now in the welterweight division. When you have been where Tyron has been, a world champion, defending your title 4 times, in the conversation for one of the best welterweights ever,
Right.
it seems weird to just simply exist. Are there still welterweights Tyron Woodley can beat? Absolutely. He's a freak of nature athlete and still a fantastic athlete. But I do not believe that he can beat any of the elite 170 pounders. So what do? Okay, where they've been saying, oh, with Tyron, you can move up to 185. He's already short for the welterweight division. So you go up to 185, it's a much easier weight cut for sure, but it's more, I mean, so I'm going to tell you the style that gives him the most problem. Israel Adesanya is the champion at middleweight right now. He's big, he's long, he's diversified from a striking standpoint. I could see Israel Adesanya walking Tyron down and completely eliminating his offensive output. I don't want to see Tyron Woodley just exist. Right. I don't want to see Tyron Woodley just simply take beatings from guys guys are like literally making their name off of him, off of the residue of what he still is or was or what have you. I don't want to see that. So that's my personal opinion. I know that's not what's going to happen. Tyron's going to get another fight. Right. He might fight even before the end of the year, just because he wants to get back out there. But yeah, it's not for me. The ceiling is low for him at this point by his current standards.
There was another tough loss on the show with Ivanov, right?
Yep, Blagoy Ivanov lost to Augusto Sakai in a very close, pretty competitive heavyweight fight. It wasn't like a heavyweight masterpiece or anything of that nature. It was a nice back and forth for the fight, but Ivanov can't get a break, man. He just flat cannot get a break. He's one of those guys who he's 5'11", around 250 pounds. He's the guy we mentioned who was stabbed like 50 times, went into a coma and had to learn how to walk again. Everything came back. So the fact that he's competing at this level is amazing. But he lost his last fight before this to Derek Lewis. It was a very close decision. Didn't get the nod. I thought he won that fight. I don't think this decision was as much in his favor as much as of a robbery, as I should say, as that one was. But one judge did score this fight Saturday 30-27 in his favor, and the other two judges scored 29-28 in Augusto Sakai's favor. So that's a weird scoring dynamic. Usually, if a guy loses a split decision, one of the judge that goes for him isn't going to give him all of the rounds. But that's what we saw. So it was odd. It was a little odd. I certainly see how Sakai got the victory. I wouldn't have been disgusted if Ivanov had won. Wasn't the greatest prediction night for me. I was still over 500, but that particular one hurt me because I did pick Blagoy Ivanov. Obviously, the Woodley pick hurt me because I picked him to win by knockout. Should have known better. I will moving forward. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that was a tough loss for Ivanov for sure. Now he's on a 2-fight losing streak. That's not a good look.
No, we had a nice brawl.
We did
on the card as well that I know you were a big fan of.
And you know what? These guys got robbed. I'm going to tell you why. Billy Quarantillo against Spike Carlisle. This was a fantastic fight. Spike Carlisle, his nickname is the Alpha Ginger. I mean, the dude is so, like I said, he's so good for the sport because he has so much personality. He has such a fan-friendly fighting style, and these guys just absolutely brawled. And I did call this one correctly. I had Billy Quarantillo winning by either a late stoppage or a decision because I figured Spike Carlisle would gas. That's exactly what happened. Spike Carlisle gassed. He's just so freaking tough. He couldn't stop him, but he did eke out the decision victory because he came on strong at the end, which is pretty much what I predicted. Carlisle wanted that catch weight of 150 pounds, and he only had a glass half full of energy in that fight, and he burnt all of it for the first, I would say, 7.5 minutes of that fight. But this fight truly was the fight of the night. But it did not get the honor, and it was so crazy how it happened, right? So Brandon Royval fought Tim Elliott in a good fight. Good fight. Brandon Royval kind of got mauled a bit in the most of the first round because Tim Elliott came out very similar to the way that Spike Carlisle came out. Just balls to the wall, like he was shot out of a cannon. And the grappling sequences kind of overwhelmed Brandon Royval in the first portion of the round. Later part of the first round, he started to take a little bit of control, transition to get to his feet, started using what was superior stand-up skills. But Elliott won the first round. But Elliott gassed himself out with that just energy dump in the first round. Second round, he was not ready. Brandon Royval was able to take advantage of him on the feet and then ultimately got the submission. Brandon Royval, now this was an action-packed fight. It was a good fight. Brandon Royval goes into his post-fight interview and he's literally crying. And this goes back to some of the other stuff that we've talked about before in terms of fighter pay. He's crying. He says, this is not what the performance that I needed. I want that. I needed to get that $50,000 bonus. I'm trying not to go back to work tomorrow, man. I got to go back to work tomorrow. I got to go to work tomorrow. And he's like, crying and sobbing through it. So I believe that speech or plea swayed the decision makers who give out the bonuses, and they gave this guy the fight. They gave these guys the fight of the night. And there's no way in the world their fight was better than Billy Quarantillo and Spike Carlisle, but neither one of them gave an impassioned plea about how much they needed this, and I'm going to tell you something.
Tell me.
I'm going to tell you something.
Tell me.
I understand where he's coming from.
Right.
But I also think you got to look at this from a different perspective. First of all, in this current environment that we're living in, there's a lot of people that wish they had a job to go to tomorrow. You have a job. Okay. You also just made 10, 12 grand, which is not anything really at all for what you do, but you did do that. But I know personally a bunch of people who would love to say, I got to go to work tomorrow. And I know a bunch of people who also wish they just did something that just pulled in 10 grand, even if you only clearing 3,500 of it.
Sure. But remember the fighter's mindset.
I get it.
Part of his goal,
I get it.
He was leaving with that money.
I get it. I totally get it. I get it. But I understand being disappointed when you don't reach your goal. I get it. But you also always have to step back and say, it could be worse. There are people in worse situations. And I think that is a principle that you have to apply, whether you're a fighter, whether you're a construction worker, whether you're a carpenter, no matter what you are, you have to always apply that, So I understood what you're saying, and I'm not condemning him for saying it or saying, oh my God, you're so out of touch, you tone deaf idiot. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that take a step back and appreciate what you just did accomplish and appreciate what the blessings that you do have. But it worked. He talked himself up on the 50 grand bonus. He willed it. So he ain't gotta go to work tomorrow.
Right. Exactly.
So maybe he opened up a job for somebody else that needs it.
So Mackenzie
Dern. Yeah, Mackenzie Dern. Mackenzie Dern is.
How would you grade her performance?
I would grade it really high, maybe an A-. She did take some shots in the stand-up. Hannah Cyphers proved to be a lot stronger probably than I think she thought she would be in the grappling, just in physically, especially upper body strength. But once the fight went to the ground, man, I'm trying to tell you, you do not want to be on the ground grappling with Mackenzie Dern when she's trying to get a submission. I mean, she is, from a pure grappling standpoint, she is as dominant, I think, as Ronda was, just from a pure grappling standpoint. Now, the game has progressed to a point where that's not going to be an automatic victory for you the way it was for Ronda.
Right.
But I'm telling you, as soon as that fight hit the canvas, I said, "Up, Hannah Cifers will not be standing up." And so she got the first ever leg submission in women's in UFC women's history, first one ever, which is really kind of amazing. Yeah, she got a knee bar submission. Hannah Cifers really made the error because as soon as that fight went to the ground, she knew she had no business. She was standing. She could have stepped out of range to get herself out of the range of a leg lock. Instead, she stood there pondering whether or not she was going to try to go to top position and range shots. And of course, Mackenzie Dern knows she has the advantage. She lays on her back like,
So where's what do you see next for Dern?
She has to. The great thing about it was she has struggled making weight before. But she just had a baby. This is her second fight back since giving birth. And actually, since she had a baby, her conditioning has been so much better than it was prior. So she looked really good at 115 pounds. Just looked healthier. Just better altogether. So she has that fantastic plan A, man. But I don't know. Wei Lee is so strong. She's a current women's strawweight champion. So strong, so physical. It's all about getting the takedowns, and Wei Lee hits like a truck. So you got to take some to get in there to get it. So I mean, Mackenzie Dern is far from a finished product, so we'll see how she pans out overall. But very impressive performance. She did what she was supposed to do. She took like almost no damage. She says she wants a quick turnaround. I love to see her back in there with a ranked opponent next time. I think she's ready for that.
So you went 6-5 on your picks.
Yes.
But look, you're better than 50%. But the bigger question is, how many of those 6 victories were dogs?
Honestly, I don't think. Actually, no. Chris Gutierrez was a dog. Chris Gutierrez was a dog. Let me see, who else was an underdog on this card? No, that wasn't a dog. Billy Quarantillo was not a dog. I think that was the only one. There's only one dog.
Okay.
There weren't a lot of underdog victories. Brandon Royval was an underdog victory. Of course, Chris Gutierrez, that was one. Caitlin Chukagian was an underdog victory.
But how many of the 5 losses were big favorites?
Tyron Woodley was a favorite. I don't know how big you want to. It was like I think it was a minus 165 favorite or something like that, 170 or something. It wasn't huge, but that one was a favorite loss. It wasn't, honestly, it was pretty chalk for the most part. It was kind of a chalk kind of an event. You had a couple of them here and there, but there weren't a lot of, most of the favorites won. So
you ended up ahead.
Yeah, if you tried to be too daring for this card, you probably got yourself.
Well, look, the one dog, the 6-5 record for this week is still a success.
Yeah, and as you said, but you have to
line value.
You have to expect that people are going to turn when it does.
Oh, I read them. I told you.
Oh my God,
it's going to happen.
It was hilarious.
Man, bro, your picks suck.
Yes,
man, I lost a lot of cash.
Yeah. And somebody accused me of getting paid to give bad picks.
Fade Mazique.
I said this fella here is crazy.
Right.
But all right. But yes, so it was an interesting event. We'll see. Going to go back and do the research for UFC 250, and we'll see what happens.